Hi, brothers and sisters. This is actually going to be a bit of a preface or a foreword for my fifth video, my fifth part on unlocking the keys, the mysteries of the Bible with the key of David. And so this kind of goes with what I hit on in the video. And many won't understand it until you do watch the video, but I thought I'd put this, comment in front instead of writing it underneath as a foreword to it. So it's called Marshalling the Army Found in the Three Main Religions of the World. And that army is going to be largely identified as female. And I heard a scholarly-like comment from what you'd consider an educated woman online. And I've only heard this the one time. I don't know if it's an actual argument that they use in this debate that's going on, but I did hear it, and was that the reason that women are the way that they are is because it's linked to trauma-based. And the answer that this educated, and I'll call her an educated woman or a scholarly-like woman gave, her answer was quite offhanded, I found. And it wasn't something that I don't think that they even think to examine in a deeper way when you're not of a religious background. That's where I'm going to draw my line. And so she flipped it off and said, no. Women don't react the way they're reacting, or everything going on is not because of trauma-based towards women. I'm not saying the right terminology. But this is the comment that I have towards those what you call the scholarly and the non-scholarly women as well, just towards women in general, who have a side in this debate. And so this is called Marshalling the Army, and it's only a 3-page comment, but it links into so much of what the Bible, and we'll look at the Holy Bible, the text, because that's the background that I'm found from one of the 3 main religions of the world. And I call this the marshalling of the army found in the 3 main religions of the world, and that's women. So scholarly, educated women, however you want to put this, and I know it's going to seem biased in the way that I wrote this, but if we think about this as women in general, you're going to realize that it has a real foundation in our society today. So scholarly or educated women, not to say that women who's of a religious background aren't educated or smart. That's not what this is saying. But you'll get what I'm saying by the end, hopefully. So scholarly or educated women, like women who have been taught in the confines of the academia world, or has been shaped largely by man's hand. Not exclusively, but largely by the male hand, tend to want to not see women's problems as stemming from something called trauma-based. And like I said, I only seen this mentioned one time. At the center of women's issues. Now, women who have been educated from a male-based perspective tends to see this as giving woman's issue a crutch, right? And something to blame, which is so far above us. We would never, we women would never do that, right? Because men would never dream of using a crutch for whatever issues men may have, all right? Of course, one of the issues is, men fighting in wars and as soldiers, which is brought on largely by men. Who wants to fight wars with one another? That aside, men would never dream of using a crutch for whatever issues men may have, so women will never dream of stooping that low, right? It's kind of the idea that I pull away from what is being said. So this would be fine. It would be a fine argument, right? Except there is one thing that non-religious women, the so-called scholarly types, and yes, I am being very restrictive in my typology, I don't know if that's the right word, of women who tend to come from the more educated background as being non-religious, but more of the point is are are more inclined not to have hearkened to this religious indoctrination for whatever reason it may be. And they tend not to understand that so many women, which comes from 1/3, one of the three main religion teachings, that they so much understand, at least some of us certainly get it, what's going on, because we've been raised in it, entrenched in it since we were yay high, since we were little girls, all right? And I am targeting the little girls. And what we, from the religious background, and they claim what, 4.5 billion to 5 billion make up one of these three religions, that they believe in one of these three doctrines. But what we as women who come from those backgrounds understand is that men on the pulpit teach that the state of the world, all right, and if you're from a highly educated, you don't have no religious upbringing, and if you do, well, you're certainly not in it today, this is what you wouldn't understand, all right, is that largely from the pulpit, which is men on that pulpit most of the time, they teach that the world is in the mess that it's in the state that it's in, largely due in part to the woman causing the fall. That's what we largely come to understand, take away as women. And our current state personally is a result of that, and thereby the state of the world is due in part. And it's largely due to the woman who fell in the garden. Now, this is the way from the Christian perspective that they teach that at you as a woman, that I took away. That it is in fact because of woman's naiveness, her, and they don't want to come right up, but her lesser brain than a man's. That, and they kind of don't want to say stupider, but you walk away with it, regardless of whether they say it or not. I know I did. I can't speak for all women. You certainly pull out that idea when the men are on the pulpit and saying that, you know, she adhered to that temptation. Now, the temptation aside, we're not going to discuss it. What we're going to discuss is the repercussions of that whole scenario, that the world fell largely because of her naiveness, all right? And that she did something that impacted man so gravely that he now has a right by God, and that's what they teach, it's gave by God, to yoke womankind, women, under him. That means make the laws that he is over her. All right? You understand, this is taught to us as little girls. Most of us that are indoctrinated with one of the three main religions in the world are indoctrinated in this manner. This is how we come as little girls. All right? So it's embedded right in us from the time we can walk, most of us. And so he has the right, that means to make the laws over us, and burden her with the basic blame, and it does so come down that way to us. You can say, no, it doesn't. Look around you. Burden her with the basic blame while professing, now in Christian religion, this is what's taught, that it is a man that makes all things right, such as the blood of Christ, a man. Your husband washing his bride, that's the Christians representing the bride, clean from all the wrong that she brought into this world. Don't tell me this isn't trauma-based. Don't tell me this doesn't teach us to view ourselves in a very different manner. It absolutely does. Basically, and I wrote a little note, they do, at least in the background I'm from, there's many offshoots from these three main religions of the world, mind you. But they basically tell us what we can wear, or at least they did in the beginning. Dresses. Oh, dresses. A sack over your head. I said it in a video that I never posted, and I didn't like that I said it, but it is the truth. A dress is an easy access. That's what it is. And they view it that way. They do so. And they removed our history and even rewrote it in parts. So how can we be expected to heal? How can you be expected to heal when this is a constant teaching? So man is pictured without a yoke. So this is the picture that I'm going to submit to you, and you can reject it or not. You can analyze it. You can look at it from a Christian perspective, from a biblical perspective. You can look at it from the perspective from the time you were a child. Now, I understand some take more away than others. So we're at various points in our learning, at various parts of our lives. So some things may come to others quicker than other things may come to another. You know what I mean? So man is pictured without a yoke, without a burden of blame. They'll try to say, oh, you know, it was Adam behind the woman. They'll stick that in there just as an afterthought. They don't really believe it. Watch them. They don't really believe it. Man is pictured without a yoke, without a burden of blame, running flat out as he is built up, that means empowered by his own law, while woman is gushing blood from an open wound, a wound that she has sustained. I said womb, it's not, it's a wound. From a serious wound and a breach of trust, forced upon us to show the burden of proof. Now, which is truth. And that's what my 5th video is going to take into examining why it is so important that we do show the burden of truth and proof, and that is indeed found in the scriptures. And so it's important that we point that out, because it is going to be found in the 5th video, why it is absolutely so important that women understand the truth in the scriptures. And so every time trust is forced to show burden of proof. Every time, regardless of what you're doing, you got to prove. You got to prove, constantly prove you're worthy of their trust, because women is so deceiving, you know. But she has to show this every time. And I see her limping, refusing a crutch to help heal the wound, while moving under the restraint of the law and the burden with the heavy blame. Men teach men not to trust women, and then women are taught also that we are not trustworthy and therefore cannot trust one another. No wonder the disparity, I don't know if I'm using the right word, between men and women looks so grand. No wonder it looks so great. He's so far over her. Well, there's a verse in the Bible that says, he puts yokes on her neck he would never put on himself. And this is, he is a giant and she is the worm. Jeremiah, it states, you have healed the hurt of the daughter of my people slightly, saying, peace, peace, when there is no peace. Don't tell me there isn't a trauma to all of this teaching that doesn't end up being the foundation of our world. So imagine what a woman could actually be like and do if she was truly free to run. No wonder they fear us. No wonder they fear the one that they restrained. Now, that's the other part we're going to take a look at. If I get interrupted, I'm going to make another quick second part to this. All right? Maybe not so quick. I'm never as quick as I think I'm going to be. So, you know what I think this is telling us? Based on what's going on, and we can all admit to this, I think, we are at a crossroad right now. Definition of crossroad. A crucial point where a decision must be made. So this is the marshaling of their army. They have to decide. The women have to decide where they fall on this argument. And this is, we are absolutely at a crossroad. And God says, pick your head up. Pick your head up. The next video is going to address that. But in 2 Thessalonians, all right, now how did I approach this when I made my note? Okay, so the restrainer no longer restrained. Not taken out of the way as they teach you. All right? That doesn't add up to what the Old Testament passages have said and are saying. Okay? It doesn't play out. Especially even in the wordplay. So the great host released is woman. It's attested to in the Bible. that is released from the accusations of man that hold her as the one blamed for man's personal downfall. What a crutch he has provided for himself. And no wonder he became a beast. You want to know the beast system? And that harlot that he exalts, because he gets to play the beast. He gets to play God, right? The accuser. So, Isaiah 51:13. We'll run through these first. Isaiah 51:13. And forgettest the Lord thy Maker. So we're going to address this to the daughters of Zion. You forgettest the Lord thy Maker. Maker there is not male. It's our mother that made us. Our father can't make us. He can't. It's our father that made us, especially us daughters, since we carry our mother's chromosomes within us, XX. And that hath stretched forth the heavens. You forgot the Lord, your Maker, that stretched forth the heavens. That takes us to Isaiah 54, our mother telling us, just as I laid out my own heavens to dwell in, I will lay yours out too. And she promises that to her daughter in Isaiah 54. That's why you get the feminine and the feminine. You get that in your understanding, mother and daughter, whom the world rejected. And so she says, I have stretched forth the heavens, and I laid the foundations of the earth, and has feared continually every day. So woman has feared every day. That's the blaming of woman. That's coming into play. The blaming of the woman. And again, I did a video where, they come and they take captive women. That's in the New Testament. And the way that it is shown that these men do it is they prey upon women's fear, that they are not good enough. And the idea in the wordplay there again is that he takes her captive in war. Just as you see those men as if they were at war in Micah chapter 2. All right, ripping their glory away from these women, what rightfully belonged to them. And so she says, you are in fear continually every day because the oppressor, who is Adam, the accuser, Satan, man who builds himself under his own law, became your oppressor, as if he were ready to destroy. Do you think he can afford to destroy you? What's going to happen if he destroys you? He's going to cease to exist. Who's the life giver? Not him. He can't afford to wipe you out of existence. Oh, he can maybe afford to oppress you for a time, right? And actually get away with it. But she says, as if he were ready to destroy. And where is the fury of the oppressor? She's saying, he don't possess the power to destroy you, but I do. I possess that power to destroy your world. If you don't turn back to me and begin to teach my laws, which I gave you in the very beginning. Now, she says, you went to sleep under this man-made religious law. And in the end, she says, I will awaken you. And again, that's going to come into play in the next video, and who actually calls her awake. So it's the wrong rendering in 2 Thessalonians. All right? And it says, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work, and only she who now letteth will let, until she be taken out of the way. So these are the words we're going to look at in 2 Thessalonians. All right? So what's the word here? And this is also another important verse in verse 6, because it leads us to at that time, which we've looked at in other videos. So in verse 6 it says, and now ye know what withholdeth, that she might be revealed in her time. They've got his, but it's her time. At that time, she's going to be revealed. All right? Who is that? The Spirit reborn, which is the mystery. All right? At your 3.5-year mark in Revelation, when you pinpoint your time frames, that's going to be revealed to the whole earth. So it's the manifestation of the glory on earth, taking back what rightfully belongs to her, which is her children, which was removed from her by the mystery of iniquity. What's the mystery of iniquity? Well, we're told it is the law that shapes iniquity. And that law ends up being the Torah law written by the hand of man, and feeds out from what's known as Mount Zion, which is where the harlot is exalted in man's heart. He actually brought her into the land of Israel, which is known as the physical land of Israel, but it's really not his spouse that he brought into the land, or the spirit of his covenant. He denied her in the Exodus. We've discussed this many times. And so, what withholdeth that she might be revealed in her time? For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Oh, it has been from the beginning of the fall, when we departed from Mother God's law, wisdom's law. Father departed. He said, we don't want her. We'll build a harlot up so that way we can yoke her and accuse her. And so, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only she who now letteth will let until she be taken out of the way. What's the word here? What's the words that we really need to investigate here? Taken out of the way is one that I was curious about. What does it really say there? You know what it really says? That she might be gone. It says here. It says he might be gone. You know what the word here is at the give? 1096. And the word is genome. I can't help but see my own name in that. It means I come into being. I am born. I become. I happen. And so the meaning here means properly to emerge, becoming, transitioning from one point, realm, condition to another. Fundamentally means becoming, to be. Signifies a change of condition, state, or place. Means to come into being, manifestation implying motion, movement, or growth. All right. Now, why else is this important, this word? Because it's actually going to take us to Revelations 4:1. And we discussed this in a video a long time ago. And why it was so significant. All right? And so Revelations 4:1, it says, after this I looked, and behold, a door was open. That's our gateway. In heaven. And the first voice which I heard was as the voice talking with me, which said, come up hither, and I will show these things which must be hereafter. So they have to happen. And guess what it is when you go in and look the words up? It says, it behooves me that it must take place, is what it says. So behooves is the Hebrew word 1163. Come on. And of course my computer's going to act up. So 1163. And it means necessary. It's necessary. Whatever is necessary here that must take place, it must come hereafter. It must be hereafter. It's necessary. Absolutely necessary. And so what's the word to take place? 1096. It must come into being before anything else that you see here that can take place after Revelations 4:1. Before anything else can take place, this must come into being and be manifested. And you link the word here, 1096, to wife, to woman, to the word goon, I believe. And it's being difficult. So let's look it up here. In the New Testament. So it's 1096. All right. So 1096. Of course, now it's moving. Okay, forgive me for this mess. I'm scrolling down. It's just taking me a while to do it. Okay, so it doesn't say it. But it actually does link back to the word wife, woman, lady. So it's saying before anything else can come to pass, she actually has to manifest. And so that takes us to here, for the mystery already is working. of lawlessness, right? The one restraining it at present until out of the midst. It says she might be gone? No, that she might manifest out of the midst of the body. That she's going to manifest. And I said, you find if the first fruits are holy, the lump is also holy. And I had said Romans 11 was where you'll find the body identified as the lump. No, I meant Romans 9, all right, in that video that I made that blunder. It's Romans 9 where the body is identified as a lump, or the lump is equivalent to the body. So the first fruits that come out of the midst is what has to come into being here. The new spirit manifested out of the dust of the earth must manifest, right? Which is this great army that's being marshaled, and why it becomes then so important and contingent on us proving our own innocence to ourselves is really what God is saying to us in so many ways. So then that leads us, this restrainer who now becomes, all right, she finally understands her role. It then links you to your verses that you're going to find in Isaiah 42. Now, we've looked at this one many times, all right? So I was going to have it in my Bible pulled up, and of course, turn to it. I don't. So if we go to Isaiah 42, because there was another part of the verse of Thessalonians I wanted to get to. Okay, so Isaiah 42. And it is a woman all the way. They'll try to make the first part a man. It's not even a man. It's a woman. Just because of the nature of what's being said. Verse 13. Actually, let's go. Let them give glory unto the Lord and declare her praise in the islands. So the Lord that the praise is going to be given to, she says, my glory I will not give it to another, is Israel. It's actually the daughters of Israel, the daughters of Zion, spoken of. That the praise will be gave to them who was the presence of God, or God wrestles on this earth, that's the meaning of Israel, against her adversary, which is the harlot that man exalts in his heart. And so she, before anything else can happen, she has to become. She has to come into being. She has to manifest. And God says, you will bear witness to my glory manifested here on earth. You're going to bear witness to it. So it's saying, let all of them praise her. And the Lord shall go forth as a mighty man, not as a mighty woman. She shall stir up jealousy. Oh, they're going to be angry. They're so used to preaching themselves as God. This is going to anger them. This doesn't suit their scenario. It doesn't tickle their ears. It doesn't taste like honey on their tongue. But it is the truth that will bring eternal life. And they don't want to hear it. So she shall stir up jealousy. Like a woman of war, she shall cry, yea, roar. She shall prevail against her enemies. I have long time holden my peace. I have been still and refrained. I have restrained myself. And now will I cry like a travailing woman. She's getting ready to deliver her children through truth. I will cry like a travailing woman. I will destroy and devour at once. I will make waste mountains and hills and dry up all their herbs. And I will make the rivers islands, and I will dry up the pools. And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not. Now we've discussed how her paths were covered over with an admixture of doctrine that you'll get in the allegory of Moses in the Exodus, parting the Red Sea. Well, it was the Spirit. I read a comment, throw down your staff, Moses. Why would you throw down your staff? That's the scepter by which you rule through, which is the power of the daughters of Zion. You would never throw your staff down. To throw your staff down means that you are dismissing the power of God. That's what that means. Wrong thinking. Seriously, wrong thinking. Have not known. I will make darkness light before them and crooked things straight. These things will I do unto them and not forsake them, because she is a mother. They shall be turned back. They shall be greatly ashamed that trust in graven images, that say to the molten images, ye are our gods. And they do. It's a he. You pull up the Godhead online, you're going to get an image of 3 males. It's an idol. They're idol pictures. God says, you saw no image of me, make no image of me. How'd we go from no image of God, knowing that the Godhead was manifested in God's very creation, showing male and female, to a he, and a he's going to deliver you out of here? No, that's the lie. All right, that's the lie. And so if we turn back to let me see, do I got it pulled up here? I do. I'm looking at it. Okay, we go back. Actually, not back. We go forward. Okay, so we'll pull the whole chapter up here, if it's going to do it for us. And when we scroll down, this is what it says. All right? And now we're in 2 Thessalonians 2 again. So, what does it say? If it'll go down. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Right? That's the verse we were reading. Watch what it says. In verse 9. All right? Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. So, do you really think that the powers of darkness do not have the power, possess the powers to manipulate the signs? Of course they do. We were told in Isaiah 22 was one of the many passages that you find them bowing down and worshiping the hosts of heaven, the stars. You think they don't have the power to manipulate the signs and wonders out there? Of course they do. Of course they do. And so it's saying you're manipulated by a lie. And it's a very good lie, particularly the women. So she's the one that will receive the praise because she's the God. Israel is the God, she, that wrestles. And it is the spirit of Israel that's identified as these daughters that are wrestling the lie. All right? Satan. They're wrestling against fallen Adam, who accused her. That's what they're wrestling against. That's what they're struggling against. This trauma that caused a deep breach of trust between us, which then placed it upon her and said, well, it's her fault. Which then further links us to these daughters in Zephaniah 3 that we've discussed. And of course, this computer is just total crap right now. So Zephaniah 3. And this is the best part. I go to this because this shows it the best. Of course. Now it picks the time not to work. Zephaniah. Let me go to it. I wrote this verse down. But I'll never find it in the mess I got here. So Zephaniah. This is what it says. I'll get there. Zephaniah 3. What does it say? Verse 18. IN 3. Yeah, verse 18. I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly, who are of thee, to whom the reproach of it was a burden. All right? So, what is the day of the Lord about again? The controversy of Zion. Right? The controversy of Zion, the word controversy means a case at law. All right? And then you get her saying in Psalm 50, I will now rebuke you for your lies and what you told about me, and you gnashed upon me with your teeth. You brought false accusations against me and false witnesses. And now these daughters are going to manifest. They are not took out of the way. They are released. They are finally released. They are released from the burden of the lie that was told by Satan, the accuser. She says, why do you fear him? He has no real power to restrain you. He has no real power to bring on death of your world. I do. I can wipe your planet out of existence if I choose to. That's how much power she's holding, the Creator. And yet you fear Him. And the idea that most women have is, yeah, if we don't stop it here and pull back this lie, well, sorry, there's been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lies stacked upon stack upon stack. You can take away that first lie, there's going to be another one. If you don't attack the very first lie that ever got told in this creation, you will never take down the lying system that yokes us. We have to be able to prove our innocence in this case, at least to a degree. We know we're not fully innocent. We know that. But he sure likes to teach that it's all her fault. And coming from a Christian background, I understand that that is a trauma base to us. It does cause us to have an open wound and to walk around feeling really nasty about ourselves and about each other. And you can deny that as a founding of what we turn into over time. Now, okay, did I share everything? So she says this. This is another point I wanted to share right quick before I go. And I'll be mad at myself because I'll have missed a few points that I should have shared. Such as, it says so. And, okay, now I'm way ahead of myself again. Okay, before I go here. This is what it says. You look up Jeremiah 6:14, Jeremiah 8:11, and read Jeremiah 9:5-7. All right? And it's going to say, you have healed the hurt of the daughter of my people slightly, saying, peace, peace, when there is no peace. This is taken into account everything that we've just discussed. You have not healed the hurt of the daughter. You have put a yoke on her neck. You've burdened her with the blame after a breach of trust that occurred in the very beginning when you accused her, and she's refusing any help. She don't want to hear another narrative. She wants to hear that this is it and a man's coming to rescue her. Instead of being able to present a case at law, the controversy of Zion, and prove her own innocence in the entire case, which is the Lord that sets the case in order and rebukes fallen Adam. And she says, now will I set the case in order for you to behold. And so that's all going to come into play in the next video. Okay, so I did have passages I wanted to read here, because they had so many validating aspects to them. All right, but one of the things I wanted to talk about was where the nation of Israel, these daughters are found. And they're found all over the world, embedded in various tribes, various people. And that's testified to when you go to the tents of Kedar, which then links us to the Shulamite, who is Israel identified. She's representing the spirit of Israel, the Shulamite, with her flock of she-goats, 144,000, that is found in the Abraham covenant in Genesis 15:9. So it becomes very important that we identify these animals and their purposes in the scriptures, and you indeed can when you do that, when you go searching for them. But what does she say? She says, woe is me that I sojourn in Meshach, that I dwell in the tents of Kedar. So we can link this back to the Shulamite, because she says, look not upon me, I am dark like the skins of Kedar, like the tents of Kedar. That's what she says. So we know she's dwelling amongst them. And she validates this in Psalm 120. She says, woe is me that I sojourn in Meshach and that I dwell in the tents of Kedar. We get further understanding that the leaders of this particular flock of Kedar is a Naboth, which was the oldest, supposedly, of Ishmael. Now, Naboth is a female name. That's the interesting thing. And it's the rams, it says, that God will receive back at her altar. The rams is not what should be rendered there. It should be the she-goats. Your she-goats are going to prove to be your leaders. That's what they end up being. They become the leaders. And so the leaders is actually coming out of Naboth, is your understanding. When you go to Isaiah 60, they're actually your she-goat rulers. And the flock that she's actually kind of ruling over, which you'll get as a feminine there, comes from Kedar. All right? Is what you'll get in Isaiah 60, which is going to link you here to the Shulamite who speaks of the tents of Kedar. She says, woe is me that I sojourn in Meshach, and that I dwell in the tents of Kedar. Now watch, it's only the daughters that is talking about. My soul hath long dwelt with him that hateth peace. So it's making a separation. It's speaking of the feminine here, the women who are Israel. At least this is one group of them. And they're out in the Gentiles. They were cast out into the fields of the Gentiles. The real woman seed which came through the daughters. And here we have her saying, my soul hath long dwelt with him that hateth peace. She's tired of it. I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war. So we're talking about these three main religious groups in the world that women, the daughters of Israel, have actually come to be found out into the Gentile nations. The woman's seed is coming through women. It is not coming through men. She states that as much here. I dwell in the tents of Kedar. My soul hath long dwelt with him that hateth peace. And they do. They absolutely hate peace. All they want to do is yoke us, tell us we're under them, tell us we're the ones to blame for the fall. And that becomes absolutely pivotal in the controversy of Zion, which is a case at law. Accuser. He accuses us daily, and she says, you fear the oppressor who has no power to do anything, really. Because I possess it. I possess the power. And this is important to understand. I thought it should absolutely be a preface, or a preface, a foreword to my next video. And so I'm going to leave it at that. And again, I thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Sorry it's too long. It shouldn't have been this long. I hope you understand what I'm driving at. I hope you all have a really nice day, and I pray you're blessed with an abundance of truth, and thanks for watching.